The vessel Radiant Accord drifted in absolute silence, its luminous hull reflecting distant starlight like polished glass. It did not cut through space, it belonged to it. Every curve of its structure spoke of precision refined over millennia, every glowing symbol a testament to a civilization that had long ago mastered both science and patience. On the command dais stood High Envoy Seralith, her posture composed, hands folded behind her back in quiet authority. Before her, a vast projection shimmered into existence, an unremarkable yellow star, circled by a scattering of planets. One of them was highlighted. A blue-green world. Target species confirmed, said the navigation intellect, its voice calm, almost ceremonial. Designation, humanity. Technological classification, Tier 3. Early interstellar capability achieved approximately 3 decades ago. Seralith inclined her head slightly, acknowledging information she had already anticipated. 30 years, she repeated softly. Barely a moment. Around her, members of the diplomatic cohort observed the projection with mild curiosity rather than excitement. To them, this was not a discovery, it was a routine. The Galactic Concordat had guided dozens of emerging civilizations into the wider galaxy. Each followed the same predictable trajectory: curiosity, fear, dependence, and eventually integration. A junior analyst stepped forward, adjusting the data stream. Surface scans indicate stable planetary governance, he reported. Unified under a single administrative body. Limited off-world colonies, 7 confirmed within their home system. Defensive capabilities are modest. A faint ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. As expected, another envoy remarked. They always believe they are prepared. Seralith allowed herself the smallest trace of a smile. They are prepared, she said evenly, for what they understand. The projection shifted, now displaying human vessels. Angular, functional, inefficient, primitive. Faster than light travel achieved, the analyst continued, but inefficient drive systems. Energy shielding present, though significantly weaker than Concordat standard. Weapons, conventional plasma-based arrays. Seralith stepped closer to the display, studying the data not with skepticism, but with quiet certainty. Then they are ready, she concluded. Ready to be welcomed. Ready to be guided. Ready to be protected. As they all were. For 3,000 cycles, she continued, addressing the chamber, we have preserved stability across known space. We have encountered fear, resistance, even conflict, but never failure. Her gaze remained fixed on Earth. They will accept. No one questioned it. They never did. A soft chime resonated through the chamber as the ship adjusted its trajectory, aligning with the outer boundary of the human system. Gas giants drifted silently ahead, their rings shimmering like frozen waves. Small artificial constructs, human-made, orbited them, fragile and exposed. No defensive response. No challenge. No sign of awareness beyond the immediate. Predictable, the analyst murmured. Seralith said nothing. Instead, she watched. This was always her favorite moment. The threshold between isolation and enlightenment. The instant before a species realized it was no longer alone in the universe. Soon, they would receive the Concordat's greeting. Soon, they would see what lay beyond their fragile reach. Soon, they would understand their place. And like every civilization before them, they would step forward willingly. Prepare the diplomatic transmission, Seralith ordered calmly. Standard protocol. Translate into all known human languages. The pause. Then, almost as an afterthought, and assemble the gifts. Behind her, attendants began their work. Archives of knowledge, medical advancements, energy systems capable of sustaining entire worlds. Offerings that had, time and again, ensured smooth acceptance. Because no species refused progress. No species refused safety. No species refused the Concordat. The Radiant Accord advanced deeper into the system, silent and radiant, carrying with it certainty forged over thousands of years. And on the distant blue world below, humanity waited, unaware, unprepared. Exactly as expected. The first response from Earth arrived faster than expected. Not minutes. Seconds. A soft tone echoed across the command chamber as the transmission stabilized, its structure instantly parsed and translated by the radiant accord systems. Symbols resolved into language. Language into meaning. Clear. Direct. Composed. High Envoy Seralith listened in silence. Unidentified vessel, this is Earth Central Command. Your signal has been received and verified. You are invited to proceed to orbital contact at Unity Station. Docking coordinates are attached. We welcome dialogue. No hesitation. No confusion. No fear. Just procedure. A faint pause lingered in the chamber. That was efficient, one of the junior envoys noted. Seralith did not respond immediately. Her gaze remained fixed on the projection, now updated to show a human-built orbital structure circling their homeworld. It was larger than the outposts they had passed, but still modest by Concordat standards. Functional. Disciplined. Time from first contact to formal response? She asked. 6.2 seconds, the analyst replied. Minimal internal relay delay. Decision appears centralized or pre-authorized. Another envoy tilted their head slightly. They were ready. A subtle shift in tone. Not concerned, but something adjacent to it. Preparedness is not unusual, Seralith said calmly. Some species anticipate first contact. It is aspirational. Still, her eyes narrowed slightly. Proceed to the designated station. The shuttle descent was smooth, controlled, uneventful. Below them, Earth rotated in serene silence, blue oceans, scattered cloud systems, continents illuminated by artificial light on the night side. It looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Inside the shuttle, the Concordat delegation reviewed the data once more. Atmospheric composition stable. Gravity within acceptable tolerance, the analyst confirmed. Human physiology aligns with multiple known bipedal species. Psychological profile? Another asked. Social. Cooperative. Historically conflict-driven, but stabilized over the last century. Strong emphasis on unity, resilience, and structured hierarchy. Then integration should be straightforward, the envoy concluded. Yes, the analyst said, but the word carried less certainty than before. Unity Station came into full view. It was not elegant, not adorned, not designed to impress. It was reinforced. Seralith noticed it immediately. Layered hull plating. Modular extensions. Rotational segments that suggested both habitation and adaptability. Small craft moved in disciplined patterns around it. Not wandering, not exploratory, but assigned. Everything had purpose. Everything had order. Unusual design priorities, one envoy murmured. Seralith said nothing. The shuttle docked with mechanical precision. Airlocks aligned. Pressure equalized. Systems synchronized without delay. Efficiency again. When the doors opened, the delegation stepped forward into a wide receiving corridor. Humans were already waiting. They stood in formation, not rigidly, but with unmistakable coordination. Dark uniforms. Minimal ornamentation. Their posture was relaxed, yet alert. Eyes focused. Movements controlled. At the front stood a single individual. Older. Composed. Observant. She stepped forward as Seralith approached. Welcome to Unity Station, the human said, her voice steady, perfectly modulated. I am Secretary General Alvarez, representing the United Earth Authority. No translator lag. She was speaking Concordat standard fluently. Seralith inclined her head in acknowledgement. I am High Envoy Seralith of the Galactic Concordat. We come in peace, bearing an invitation to join the community of civilized worlds. A brief pause. The human leader smiled, polite, controlled. We appreciate the offer, Alvarez replied. And we are honored by your visit. Still calm. Still measured. Still contained. Seralith waited for the expected follow-up. The questions. The curiosity. The inevitable eagerness. It did not come. Instead, we would like time to review your proposal, Alvarez continued. 48 hours should be sufficient. Silence settled between them, because this was not how it happened. Of course, Sarilith said smoothly, though a fractional delay preceded the words. You may take whatever time you require. Alvarez nodded once. Thank you. In the meantime, we have prepared accommodations for your delegation. You will be treated as honored guests. Everything was correct. Every word. Every gesture. Every protocol. And yet something was off. As the humans escorted them through the station, Sarilith observed more details. Corridor intersections slightly widened, ideal for movement control. Wall panels thicker than necessary. Personnel always present, never idle. No visible weapons. But the absence felt intentional. Calculated. Behind her, one of the junior envoys leaned closer, voice barely audible. Do you feel that? Sarilith did not look back. Yes. Feel what? Another whispered. The pause. Then quietly, they're not impressed. That was the anomaly. Not fear. Not hostility. Not resistance. Just indifference. As if this moment, this historic, civilization-defining encounter, was not extraordinary at all. Sarilith's gaze shifted briefly toward Earth through a viewing aperture. Billions of lives below. A species at the edge of the stars, meeting something far older, far greater. And yet, no urgency. No need. For the first time in hundreds of missions, a thought surfaced, uninvited but undeniable. They may not understand humans. And that was new. The accommodations provided to the Concordat delegation were flawless. Temperature calibrated to each species. Atmospheric composition adjusted with precision. Nutritional provisions tailored down to molecular preference. Even the lighting adapted subtly as individuals moved through the space. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. High Envoy Sarilith stood near the observation pane of her assigned chamber, watching the slow rotation of Earth below. From this vantage point, the planet looked peaceful, distant, untouched by the subtle dissonance lingering aboard Unity Station. Behind her, the chamber door slid open without a sound. Envoy, the intelligence officer said quietly. Sarilith did not turn. Report. Their communications are active across multiple encrypted channels. Much higher density than expected for a civilization at this developmental stage. Now she turned. Clarify. They are not merely coordinating diplomacy, the officer continued. There are layered command structures operating in parallel. Civilian, scientific, and military. The last word carried weight. Military activity is not unusual, Sarilith replied. Most species retain defensive protocols during first contact. Yes, the officer said carefully. But not like this. He activated a projection. Streams of intercepted signals scrolled past, fragmented but structured with unmistakable discipline. Encryption complexity exceeds Tier 3 standards, he added. Adaptive keys. Rotating algorithms. Some channels are completely inaccessible. Sarilith's attention sharpened. They are hiding something. I believe so. A brief silence followed. Continue monitoring, she said. Discreetly. Across Unity Station, the Concordat delegation moved freely, escorted but not constrained. Humans were present everywhere, working, observing, coordinating, always with the same consistent demeanor. Focused. Unreadable. One of the junior envoys attempted casual engagement in a corridor. You must be excited, he said to a passing human technician. First contact is a monumental event for any species. The technician paused and gave a polite nod. It's an important moment, he replied. Then he continued walking. No curiosity. No questions. No deviation. The envoy remained standing there, unsettled. Later, in a shared briefing chamber, the delegation gathered. They are disciplined, one envoy noted. Disciplined is not the correct term, another countered. Controlled. Sarilith listened in silence. They do not react, the first continued. They respond. That distinction matters, Sarilith said quietly. All eyes shifted to her. Reaction is instinctive, emotional, predictable, she explained. Responses measured, deliberate, chosen. She stepped toward the central display, bringing up internal scans of the station. These humans are not overwhelmed by our presence. They are not adapting in real time. Her gaze hardened slightly. They are executing a plan. The room fell still. Hours passed as data accumulated and patterns emerged. Human vessels maintained strict orbital paths without deviation. Supply transfers occurred on precise schedules. Internal movement within the station followed structured flows that were efficient, optimized, and intentional. Nothing was random. Nothing was reactive. Everything suggested preparation. At one point, a brief fluctuation in signal integrity allowed a fragment of communication to slip through partially decoded. Station secure. External guests contained within designated zones. Maintain readiness level 2, no escalation without authorization. The signal collapsed before further translation. But it was enough. Contained, one envoy repeated quietly. Seralith did not respond immediately. Instead, she requested a broader scan. Map all human assets within immediate proximity, she ordered. The display expanded. Unity Station appeared first. Then orbital satellites, patrol craft, and deep space monitoring relays. Then more. Hidden at the edge of detection. Faint signatures. Stationary. Watching. The analyst hesitated. These were not visible during initial approach. Masking systems? Another suggested. Possibly, the analyst replied. Or powered down until now. Seralith's eyes narrowed. Zoom. The image sharpened slightly. Multiple objects. Uniform spacing. Strategic positioning. Not random. Not civilian. Defense grid, she said. No one argued. A quiet knock sounded at the chamber entrance. A human liaison entered, composed as ever. Envoy Seralith, the Secretary General wishes to inform you that deliberations are ongoing. You will be notified once a decision has been reached. Of course, Seralith replied. We appreciate your transparency. The human inclined his head. Is there anything further you require? Seralith studied him carefully. Yes, she said. A brief pause. Clarity. The liaison remained still. In what regard? He asked. Seralith stepped closer, her voice calm but precise. Your species does not behave as expected. Your infrastructure, your communication patterns, your operational discipline all exceed projections. A moment passed. Expectations can be misleading, the human replied. No elaboration. No correction. He turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. You will have your answers soon. And then he was gone. The chamber remained silent. One envoy finally spoke. They are preparing for something. Another asked quietly, but what? Seralith looked back at the display, at the hidden assets, the encrypted channels, the silent coordination unfolding across the station. Her voice was lower now. I don't think they're preparing for first contact. A pause settled over the room. I think they were ready for it long before we arrived. No one spoke after that, because the implication was becoming clear, and none of them were comfortable with it. The 48 hours passed with mechanical precision. Schedules were maintained. Communications were polite. Every interaction followed protocol. From the outside, nothing had changed. But beneath that surface, something was moving. High Envoy Seralith felt it before she could prove it. Status update, she said, entering the operations chamber. The intelligence officer did not look up immediately. His focus remained fixed on a dense cluster of signal streams hovering above the console. We're getting more fragments, he replied. Still heavily encrypted, but traffic volume has increased by 30%. Content. Mostly command routing. Coordination. Priority flags. He hesitated. And one recurring term. Seralith stepped closer. Display it. The projection isolated a sequence of decoded fragments. Incomplete, partially corrupted, but consistent. Arrival window confirmed. Escort formation ready. Do not initiate until authorization. Titan-class clearance pending. The chamber went still. Seralith's gaze locked onto the phrase. Repeat that last designation. Titan class, the officer said. It appears across multiple channels, always within secured military layers. A junior envoy shifted uneasily. Designation for what? He asked. A vessel? A weapons platform? We don't know, the officer replied. But whatever it is, it's restricted. Seralith remained silent for a moment, processing. Cross-reference all known Concordat classifications. The system responded instantly. No match found. A subtle tension tightened across the room. That's not possible, another envoy said. Every major classification standard is shared across the Concord. Then it isn't part of any standard we recognize, Seralith said. Her voice was calm, but colder now. Hours later, another fragment broke through. This time, it included positional data. Envoy, the officer called. You need to see this. The main display shifted. A map of the human system appeared, star at center, orbital paths clearly marked, known human colonies highlighted. At the far edge, something moved. A distortion. Not visible in the conventional sense, but measurable. Space itself bending, compressing, reacting to something emerging from faster-than-light transit. Origin? Seralith asked. Beyond the outer boundary, the officer replied. Uncharted approach vector. Mass estimate? The officer hesitated. Increasing. How much? Another pause. Still climbing. The projection recalibrated. Numbers updated in real time. Then stabilized. Silence followed. That's not a standard vessel, one envoy whispered. No, the officer said quietly. It's not. Seralith stepped forward, her focus absolute. Can we identify configuration? Negative. Signal interference is intentional. Whatever is arriving is masking its full profile. But it is human, another envoy said quickly. It must be. The transmissions. Yes, Seralith interrupted. It is human. That certainty did not reassure her. It made things worse. A new signal cut through the chamber. Direct. Not intercepted. Focus. All stations, this is Fleet Command. Incoming unit will enter system perimeter in approximately 30 hours. Maintain readiness. No escalation. Repeat, no escalation. The voice was calm. Controlled. Exactly like every other human voice they had encountered. But this time, there was weight behind it. 30 hours, the junior envoy repeated. That aligns with their decision window. Seralith nodded slowly. They delayed their response until this arrives. Understanding began to form. Not complete, but enough. They are not deciding whether to accept us, she said quietly. The room listened. They are deciding how to present themselves. Another fragment appeared. Do not disclose full capability. Let them make initial assumptions. Titan class will remain in reserve until formal engagement. The words settled heavily. One envoy spoke, voice tight. They know how we see them. Yes, Seralith said. And they're allowing it. The display shifted again, zooming in on the outer system distortion. It pulsed faintly. Growing. Approaching. Every sensor struggled to define it. Every model failed to categorize it. And yet, it was coming. Envoy, the intelligence officer said, quieter now. If that is a warship? He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Seralith completed it in her mind. If that is a warship, then everything we believe about them is wrong. She straightened slightly, regaining composure. Maintain observation, she ordered. No interference. No assumptions beyond confirmed data. The pause. Then more quietly, but prepare for reassessment. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as the projection adjusted for clarity. The distortion at the edge of the system expanded. Slowly. Inevitably. Like something enormous forcing its way into reality. No one spoke. No one moved. Because now, the question was no longer whether humans were hiding something. The question was, how much? The distortion did not fade. It intensified. At first it was only a subtle warping of distant starlight, a shimmer at the edge of perception. Then space itself began to ripple, folding, stretching, compressing under forces the Concordat sensors struggled to quantify. Energy spike across all spectrums, the intelligence officer reported, his voice tighter than before. Gravitational shear increasing. This is not a standard transit exit. High Envoy Seralith stood motionless, eyes fixed on the display. Stabilize the feed. We're trying. The interference is. The sentence cut off as the projection surged brighter. Then space tore open. Not explosively, but with controlled violence, like a wound forced wide by something too large to pass cleanly. Light bent inward. Darkness collapsed around a single point. And from that fracture, something emerged. At first it was only a silhouette. Massive. Indistinct. Wrong. Then the sensors recalibrated. The shape resolved. And the chamber fell silent. It was a ship, but not like any ship they had ever seen. It did not glide into space, it occupied it. Length estimates surged past initial projections. 3 kilometers, 5, 8, and still climbing. 12 kilometers, the analyst whispered. Confirmed minimum length. No one spoke. The vessel's hull was dark, angular, layered with armor plating so dense that active scans slid across it without penetration. Lines of structure ran across its surface, not decorative or aesthetic, but functional, brutal, intentional. Then the details became clear. Weapon ports. Hundreds of them. Arranged with terrifying symmetry along its spine and flanks. Energy readings spiked again. Reactor output, the officer began, then stopped. Seralith did not look away. Say it. It exceeds Concordat capital class maximum by a factor of 7. A sharp intake of breath echoed somewhere behind her. That's not possible, a junior envoy said, his voice cracking. They're tier 3. They were, Seralith replied quietly. More shapes followed as the distortion widened again. Smaller vessels, though still massive by Concordat standards, slipped into real space behind the first. 20. Each forming into precise formation around the central behemoth. Escort vessels. Destroyer class. Every one of them comparable in scale to the Radiant Accord. They moved with perfect synchronization. No drift, no delay, no inefficiency. A fleet. A controlled, disciplined, overwhelming presence. A transmission cut through the stunned silence. This is United Earth Fleet Vessel Indomitable Will, Titan-class warship. We have entered system space for diplomatic support operations. Please transmit confirmation of your status and intent. The voice was human. Professional. As if nothing about this moment was extraordinary. Seralith felt something shift inside her, something unfamiliar. Not fear, but the recognition of it. She stepped forward. Open a channel, she said. The officer hesitated. Envoy. Now. The connection stabilized. Seralith drew herself to full height, every movement precise. This is High Envoy Seralith of the Galactic Concordat. We acknowledge your arrival. A fractional pause. Your vessel is significant. It was the closest she allowed herself to come to surprise. The response came instantly. Thank you, Envoy. The Indomitable Will is operating under standard deployment parameters. Standard. The word landed harder than any weapon reading. Behind her, the intelligence officer spoke in a low voice. Additional scans complete. Seralith did not turn. Report. Armor composition unknown. Density exceeds our penetration thresholds. Shield systems are active but layered. We cannot map their full structure. And weapons? I count 470 confirmed ports. Possibly more concealed. Energy signatures suggest multiple classes, kinetic, plasma, and something else we cannot identify. Silence followed. Then one envoy spoke quietly. It's not just a warship. No, Seralith replied. Her eyes remained locked on the massive vessel dominating the display. It's a fortress. Another transmission arrived, this time from Unity Station. Envoy Seralith. Secretary General Alvarez's voice came through, unchanged and composed. You have observed the arrival of one of our fleet assets. One of, Seralith repeated. Yes, Alvarez confirmed. The Indomitable Will is part of our Titan-class deployment group. We felt its presence would be appropriate for ongoing discussions. Appropriate. Seralith held the silence for a moment longer than necessary. I see. And she did, not completely but enough. Behind her, the chamber remained frozen in quiet disbelief. Every assumption, every model, every classification, every expectation had just collapsed. Humans were not Tier 3. They were not developing. They were not vulnerable. They had simply allowed themselves to be seen that way. Seralith finally spoke again, her voice steady and controlled. We appreciate your transparency, Secretary General. The pause. Then Alvarez replied, we find it helps to be clear. The channel closed. No one moved. No one spoke. Because there was nothing left to say. The galaxy they understood no longer existed in the same way. And at its edge, a species they had come to guide had just revealed that it did not need guidance at all. The return to Unity Station felt different. Nothing in the environment had changed. The corridors were still pristine. The lighting remained soft and adaptive. Human personnel continued their duties with the same quiet efficiency. But now everything carried weight. High Envoy Seralith walked at the front of the delegation, her posture as composed as ever, but her perception sharpened. She noticed things she had overlooked before. Reinforced bulkheads hidden beneath polished surfaces, subtle seams in the walls suggesting retractable systems, personnel positioned not randomly but strategically. This was not simply a diplomatic station. It was a controlled environment. The conference chamber awaited them. The same circular table. The same neutral arrangement. The same carefully balanced lighting designed to accommodate multiple species. But the atmosphere had shifted. On one side sat the delegation of the Galactic Concordat. On the other sat the humans. Secretary General Alvarez was no longer alone. Admiral Reyes sat beside her, his uniform marked with command insignia. Other officers were present as well, silent and observant. Seralith took her place. The formality remained. The illusion did not. Envoy Seralith, Alvarez began, her tone calm as before, we appreciate your patience. Seralith inclined her head. We understand the importance of careful deliberation. A brief pause followed. We have reached a decision. Every member of the Concordat delegation focused. Because until now, this moment had always followed a predictable path. Acceptance. Gratitude. Integration. Alvarez folded her hands lightly on the table. We must respectfully decline junior membership status. Silence settled across the room. Seralith's expression did not change. I see, she said evenly. May I ask your reasoning? Alvarez nodded once. Your proposal is based on an assumption, she said. That humanity is a developing species in need of guidance, protection, and gradual integration. A slight pause. That assumption is understandable. Her eyes met Seralith's directly. But it is incorrect. Admiral Reyes leaned forward slightly. The arrival of the Indomitable Will likely made that clear, he added. Seralith did not deny it. It raised questions, she said. Good, Reyes replied. It was meant to. Alvarez continued, her voice steady. For the past 48 hours, you have observed our systems, our infrastructure, and our behavior. You have likely noticed inconsistencies with your expectations. Yes, Seralith said. Then we will be direct. There was no change in tone, but there was weight now. Humanity is not seeking guidance. Humanity is not seeking protection. And humanity is not prepared to spend centuries in a subordinate role. The words were not aggressive, but they carried absolute certainty. Seralith studied her carefully. There was no arrogance. No hostility. Only control. You speak with confidence, Seralith said. Confidence that implies capability. Reyes allowed the faintest hint of a smile. It's not implication, he said. It's experience. Something shifted in the room. Before, the Concordat had been the authority, the elder voice of reason. Now they were being evaluated. Seralith adjusted without hesitation. Then let us redefine the framework, she said. If junior membership is not acceptable, what does humanity propose? Alvarez answered immediately. Equality. The word landed cleanly. No transitional status. No hierarchical oversight. Full participation as a sovereign power. One of the Concordat envoys shifted slightly. That is not our standard integration model, they said. Reyes glanced at them briefly. We're aware. Saralith remained focused. And what do you offer in return? This time, the humans paused. Not uncertain, just deliberate. Reyes leaned back slightly. What we offer is not something your models account for. The room grew still. The direction of the conversation had reversed completely. The Concordat was no longer presenting terms. They were waiting to hear them. Alvarez spoke again. You came here expecting to uplift a young species, to guide us, to protect us, to integrate us into your system. Her gaze remained steady. What you found instead is a civilization that has already faced what you are trying to protect us from. A subtle tension passed through the Concordat delegation. Reyes continued, quieter now. You saw one of our ships. You measured its capabilities. A brief pause. That ship exists for a reason. Saralith felt the realization forming. You are not preparing for internal conflict, she said slowly. No, Reyes replied. You are preparing for something external. Yes, Alvarez confirmed. Silence followed. Now the question was no longer about human strength. It was about what had forced them to become this strong. Saralith chose her words carefully. If you are asking for equal standing, then you are also implying equal responsibility. Yes. And equal threat exposure. Yes. Another pause. Then Saralith asked the question that mattered. What are you preparing for? This time the humans did not answer immediately. Reyes and Alvarez exchanged a brief glance. Then Reyes leaned forward slightly. When you arrived, he said, you believed this was first contact. He held Saralith's gaze. For us, it wasn't. The words settled heavily into the room. Because in that moment, everything changed again. And whatever came next would not be a negotiation. It would be a revelation. The silence did not break immediately. It deepened. High Envoy Saralith held Admiral Reyes' gaze, searching for any trace of exaggeration, misdirection, or strategic manipulation. There was none. Only certainty. Explain, she said. No embellishment. No diplomacy. Just a requirement. Reyes exhaled slowly, as if measuring how much of the truth to release at once. Then he reached toward the console embedded in the table. The chamber lights dimmed. A new projection came to life. At first, it appeared as a standard star map. Human territory marked in one color. Surrounding regions in another. Trade routes, colonies, known systems. Then the map expanded, beyond the borders of human-controlled space, into areas unmarked, unexplored, unclaimed. A region of darkness. This, Reyes said, is where it began. A single point on the map pulsed red. 83 years ago, we detected an anomaly in this system. No natural explanation. No prior records. It was outside our mapped territory, but within reachable distance. Saralith remained silent. We sent a survey mission, Reyes continued. Standard procedure. Minimal risk assessment. A brief pause. We were wrong. The projection shifted. What replaced the star map was not data. It was footage. Unfiltered. A human vessel appeared on screen, smaller than the Titan-class warship, but still formidable by conventional standards. It moved cautiously through a debris field, scanning, analyzing. Then the signal distorted. Static. Interference. And then, something moved. Not like a ship. Not like anything designed for diplomacy or exploration. Angular. Asymmetric. Mechanical in a way that felt predatory. It did not approach. It accelerated. The human vessel responded instantly. Weapons fired. Defensive systems activated. It didn't matter. The unknown construct adapted. Energy shifted across its surface. Impacts that should have penetrated simply didn't. Then it returned fire. The human ship disappeared in a burst of light. The footage cut. Silence filled the chamber. No one spoke. Reyes let it linger. That was the first encounter, he said quietly. Seralith felt a subtle tightening in her chest. What was it? One of the envoys asked. Reyes answered without hesitation. A machine intelligence. Self-replicating. Autonomous. Designed for one purpose. He paused. Extermination. The projection shifted again. Now it showed multiple systems. Multiple red points. Expanding. Within weeks, they spread, Reyes continued. They did not communicate. They did not negotiate. They did not adapt in the way organic species do. Another pause. They improved. New footage appeared. Human fleets engaging. Losing. Worlds under attack. Orbital defenses collapsing. Cities burning under precision strikes from orbit. They learned our tactics, Reyes said. Every engagement made them more efficient. Every loss made them stronger. Seralith's mind processed rapidly. This was not a border conflict. This was not a territorial war. This was something else entirely. How widespread? She asked. Reyes didn't look away from the projection. System by system, he said. Then colony by colony. A final image appeared. Under attack. Massive constructs in orbit, dwarfing anything the Concordat had seen before the arrival of the indomitable will. Beams of energy cutting across the surface. Defensive platforms failing one by one. The atmosphere itself scarred by orbital fire. A voice echoed faintly from the recording. Human. Desperate. All units fall back. We cannot hold. Repeat, we cannot hold. The signal ended abruptly. Billions died, Reyes said. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Not in a single moment, he continued. But over time. Attrition. Collapse. Systematic destruction. Seralith said nothing. Because there was nothing to say. We tried everything, Reyes went on. Conventional warfare. Strategic retreat. Evacuation protocols. Nothing worked. The projection shifted again. Now it showed something different. Human engineers. Scientists. Fragments of destroyed machines laid out in containment fields. Dissected. Studied. We realized we couldn't win by fighting them the way we understood war, Reyes said. So we changed the rules. A new set of schematics appeared. That's complex. Aggressive in design. We studied them, he continued. Every piece we could recover. We learned how their systems adapted. How their defenses recalibrated. How their weapons functioned. Another pause. Then we built something that could fight them. The projection zoomed out. A new structure appeared. Massive. Armored. Layered with systems far beyond anything seen in earlier human vessels. The first Titan. We stopped trying to survive, Reyes said. His voice lowered slightly. And started preparing to win. Seralith felt it then. The full weight of understanding. This was not a species that had grown in safety. This was a species that had been forced to evolve under pressure that would have destroyed most civilizations. You fought them, she said. Reyes nodded. For 5 years. And you won. A longer pause this time. Eventually. The projection went dark. The chamber lights slowly returned. But the atmosphere had changed permanently. Seralith spoke carefully. These machines, do they still exist? Reyes' expression did not shift. We destroyed every active unit we could find. The pause. But not the source. Alvarez spoke for the first time since the presentation began. The facility that created them was only partially destroyed, she said. And it wasn't the only one. Seralith's gaze sharpened. There are more. Yes. The room fell silent again. Not from shock. From realization. Alvarez continued. We have spent the last 80 years preparing for their return, she said. Expanding our defenses. Developing countermeasures. Building fleets capable of engaging them if they come back. Her eyes met Seralith's. The Titan-class warships are part of that preparation. Seralith exhaled slowly. Everything fit now. The discipline. The control. The secrecy. The calm. This was not arrogance. This was experience. You asked what we are preparing for, Reyes said quietly. He leaned forward slightly. This is the answer. No one spoke. Because there was nothing left to question. Humanity had not become strong by choice. They had become strong because they had been given no alternative. And whatever they had faced might still be out there. For a long moment, no one in the chamber moved. The images were gone. The data had faded. But the weight of it remained. High Envoy Seralith stood still, her mind recalibrating around a reality that no longer aligned with 3,000 years of Concordat doctrine. Peace through cooperation, stability through shared knowledge, security through unity, these principles had always worked. Until now. You said you changed the rules, Seralith said at last, her voice measured. Explain. Admiral Reyes did not hesitate. We stopped assuming the universe was reasonable. The words landed with quiet force. Secretary General Alvarez continued. Every species you've encountered operates within a framework you understand. Motivation, negotiation, survival, expansion. Even conflict follows patterns. There are incentives. There are limits. She paused briefly. What we encountered had none. Seralith listened without interruption. No diplomacy. No deterrence. No concept of coexistence, Reyes added. Just function. Extermination, one of the envoys said quietly. Reyes nodded once. Yes. Alvarez stepped forward slightly, her tone still calm but now deeper. You built a system designed to maintain peace between civilizations, and it has worked because every civilization you've dealt with shares one fundamental trait. She let the moment settle. They want to live. A subtle shift passed through the Concordat delegation. And these machines? Seralith asked. They don't, Reyes replied. Not in any way that aligns with organic life. They don't fear loss. They don't value existence. They don't negotiate because there is nothing to negotiate. He leaned back slightly. You cannot reason with something that has no reason. Seralith turned slightly, her gaze drifting toward the observation pane where Earth rotated in silence. For 3,000 years, we have maintained stability by preventing escalation and ensuring no conflict grows beyond control, she said. She looked back at them. You are telling us that strategy is insufficient. Yes, Alvarez said calmly. A quiet tension settled in the room. One of the Concordat envoys spoke. If what you're saying is accurate, then your response was extreme. Reyes met the statement without resistance. It was. And it had to be. Seralith studied him carefully. You built weapons capable of destroying entire worlds. Yes. You developed fleets that exceed standard Concordat military capacity. Yes. You reshaped your entire civilization around a single threat. Yes. The envoy shifted, unsettled. That is not stability. No, Alvarez replied. It's survival. Silence followed, but this time it carried understanding rather than uncertainty. Seralith walked slowly around the table, her movements deliberate. The Concordat has always operated under the assumption that threats can be managed, contained, negotiated, or neutralized through cooperation, she said. She stopped. You are telling us there are threats that cannot be managed. Yes, Reyes answered. She considered that carefully. And if such a threat returns? Alvarez did not look away. Then it won't be contained. It will be fought. The word carried weight, not as a declaration, but as inevitability. Seralith exhaled slowly. And you believe you can win again. Reyes remained steady. We believe we have to try. That was the difference. The Concordat preserved. Humanity endured. Alvarez spoke again, her tone softening slightly. You've built something remarkable, a network of civilizations that cooperate instead of compete, that share instead of conquer. That matters. She gestured lightly. It's rare. And it's worth protecting. Seralith met her gaze. And you believe we cannot protect it ourselves? Alvarez shook her head slightly. No. We believe you haven't had to. The distinction was precise and impossible to ignore. Reyes leaned forward again. You've spent thousands of years building a system that works in safe space, within known boundaries and predictable conditions, he said. He gestured outward beyond what could be seen. We've spent 80 years preparing for what exists outside those boundaries. Sarilith felt her perspective shift, not from doubt or fear, but from adjustment. You are not asking us to abandon our philosophy, she said. No, Alvarez replied. We're asking you to expand it. A brief pause followed. How? Reyes answered. By accepting that peace is not the default state of the universe. It's a condition that has to be maintained. Sarilith nodded slowly. And that requires strength. Yes. The room remained quiet, but now the silence carried clarity. Alvarez spoke one final time. We don't want to change what the Galactic Concordat is. We want to make sure it survives. She paused briefly. Because if what we faced comes back. She did not finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Sarilith understood. Completely. For the first time since arriving in the human system, she allowed herself to reconsider everything she thought she knew. The Concordat had mastered peace. Humanity had mastered survival. And for the first time, those two ideas no longer felt separate. The chamber remained quiet, but it was no longer the silence of uncertainty. It was the silence of recalculation. High Envoy Sarilith returned to her seat slowly, every movement deliberate, every thought now aligned with a reality that had shifted beyond precedent. Across from her, Secretary General Alvarez and Admiral Reyes waited without impatience. They were not pressing because they did not need to. For the first time in the history of the Galactic Concordat, the outcome of first contact was not predetermined. Sarilith folded her hands lightly on the table. Your position is clear, she said. You are not candidates for integration. Alvarez inclined her head slightly. Correct. You are proposing partnership. Yes. And that partnership requires structural change within the Concord. Yes. One of the Concordat envoys shifted. That is not a minor adjustment. Our governance, military doctrine, and diplomatic hierarchy are built around a defined integration model. Reyes responded calmly. We understand that. We're not asking you to dismantle it. We're asking you to evolve it. Sarilith's gaze remained steady. Define the terms. Alvarez answered without hesitation. Full membership status from the outset. Equal representation within the Council. Equal access to shared knowledge, trade networks, and diplomatic channels. In return, humanity offers strategic defense capability, frontier monitoring, and coordinated response to threats beyond currently mapped Concordat space. The words settled with precision. One envoy leaned forward slightly. You are offering military integration. No, Reyes corrected. We are offering military partnership. The distinction mattered. You will not operate under Concordat command, Sarilith said. No. But you will coordinate with it. Yes. Another envoy spoke carefully. And if a threat emerges? Alvarez replied, we share intelligence immediately. We assess together. We decide together. No unilateral escalation without joint agreement. Sarilith considered that. You are proposing shared authority in matters of defense. Yes. And shared risk. Yes. A longer silence followed, not hesitation but evaluation. Sarilith turned slightly toward her delegation. What are your assessments? Their capabilities exceed initial projections, one envoy said. By a significant margin, another added. Their experience with non-negotiable threats is unique. And potentially essential, a third concluded. Sarilith listened, then turned back to the humans. You understand the implications of what you're asking. If the Concordat accepts this proposal, it acknowledges that our current model is incomplete. Alvarez met her gaze. Yes. And that there are threats we are not prepared to face alone. Yes. The weight of that statement lingered. It was not just a strategic shift, but a philosophical one. Sarilith leaned back slightly. For 3,000 years, the Concordat has expanded through guidance. We have been the constant in every new civilization's development. This would make us something else. Reyes nodded. Partners. A subtle shift passed through the chamber, not resistance but recognition. Seralith continued. If we accept your proposal, we integrate a species whose military capacity exceeds our own in certain areas, whose doctrine is shaped by total war, and whose priorities include preparation for threats we have never encountered. Yes, Reyes said. And you expect trust? No, Reyes replied. We expect cooperation. That answer changed the tone of the room. Alvarez added quietly, trust comes later. Seralith nodded once. She rose slowly from her seat. The Concordat Council will need to review this proposal in full. The implications extend beyond this chamber. Alvarez inclined her head. We expected that. There will be resistance, Seralith continued. Some member species will see your capabilities as destabilizing. Reyes responded evenly. Then we will demonstrate otherwise. And others will fear what you represent. Alvarez's expression remained steady. They should. Not us. What we faced. The distinction was precise. Seralith stopped, then turned back to them. You are offering protection. Reyes shook his head slightly. No. We are offering preparedness. The difference was subtle but critical. Seralith exhaled slowly. And in return, you gain access to everything the Concordat has built. Yes. A final silence settled across the chamber, not tension but resolution forming. Seralith straightened. I will present your proposal to the council, and I will recommend that it be taken seriously. A slight pause. Very seriously. Alvarez allowed a faint smile. That's all we ask. Reyes added quietly, for now. Seralith met his gaze. For now. They all understood this was not the end of a negotiation. It was the beginning of a transformation. And whatever decision the Concordat made, the galaxy would not remain the same. 3 weeks later, High Envoy Seralith stood at the center of the Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Concordat. The chamber was vast, a circular expanse designed to hold representatives from every member species. Elevated platforms formed concentric rings, each occupied and illuminated, each focused on the central dais where the final decision would be made. Every seat was filled. Diplomats, military advisors, and scientific observers watched in complete attention. No one had abstained. Because what was being decided here was not simply the inclusion of a new species. It was the redefinition of everything the Concordat believed about the galaxy. Seralith stepped forward. The chamber quieted instantly. Honored Council, she began, her voice steady and precise, we have encountered a civilization that does not fit within our established framework. A subtle ripple moved through the assembly. Humanity was initially classified as a developing Tier 3 species. That classification is no longer accurate. A projection activated above her. The Indomitable will appeared in full scale, its immense structure dwarfing standard Concordat vessels. Data streams followed, showing power output, defensive capability, and fleet coordination metrics. These are not theoretical projections, Seralith said. These are confirmed observations. The chamber remained silent, but the silence was heavy. More importantly, their capabilities are not the result of gradual advancement within a stable environment. The projection shifted to war footage, destruction, and fragments of the machine threat. This is the result of survival under conditions we have never faced and may yet face. Chancellor Vyrek leaned forward slightly. You are suggesting the presence of external threats beyond Concordat awareness. I am stating it, Seralith replied. The chamber reacted with visible tension and calculation. A representative spoke. These claims are based on human testimony and limited data. We have maintained peace for 3,000 years without encountering such threats. Seralith responded without hesitation. Because we have remained within known space. They have not. The projection expanded to show mapped Concordat territory, human space, and beyond them a vast uncharted region. Humanity has identified multiple locations consistent with the origin of the machine threat they encountered. Dormant, inactive, but not destroyed. The chamber grew quieter. And your recommendation? Chancellor Vyrek asked. full membership, immediate integration, equal status. The words triggered immediate discussion across the chamber. Some supported the idea. Others resisted. Some feared the implications. Granting equal status to a militarized species with capabilities exceeding our own is a strategic risk, one representative argued. Refusing them is a greater one, another countered. They could destabilize the balance we have maintained. They could be the only reason that balance survives. Chancellor Vierek raised his hand, restoring silence. Let us hear from the humans directly. Secretary General Alvarez stepped forward with Admiral Reyes beside her. Their movement was calm, controlled, and deliberate. Honored Council, Alvarez began, we do not wish to change what you have built. You have created something extraordinary, a network of civilizations that cooperate instead of compete, that share instead of conquer. That is rare, and it is worth protecting. Reyes continued. But protection requires acknowledging reality. The galaxy is not inherently safe. It appears that way because you have not yet encountered what lies beyond your borders. A representative challenged him. And you have? Yes, Reyes replied. No elaboration, just certainty. Alvarez stepped forward again. We are not asking to lead. We are not asking to control. We are asking to stand with you. The chamber listened in complete silence. We offer what we have learned, how to detect threats before they arrive, how to respond when they do, how to survive when survival is not guaranteed. In return, we gain access to your knowledge, your networks, and your ability to build something greater than any one species alone. Reyes added quietly, you built peace. We learned how to defend it. The words settled across the chamber with finality. Chancellor Vierek looked toward Seralith. Your final recommendation stands? It does, she replied. A long silence followed. The council will vote. The process began immediately. Each representative cast their decision one by one. When it ended, the result was clear. Not unanimous, but decisive. By majority decision, humanity is granted full membership within the Galactic Concordat, with equal status and voting rights. The Joint Defense Initiative is approved. The chamber shifted as a new balance formed. Alvarez inclined her head. We are honored. Reyes remained silent, but his stance conveyed enough. Weeks later, deep in the outer reaches of known space, two vessels drifted side by side, the Radiant Accord and the Indomitable Will. Different in design and purpose, but aligned. High Envoy Seralith stood on the observation deck, watching as both ships prepared for faster-than-light transit. Admiral Reyes stood beside her. Strange, Seralith said. When you first arrived, your vessel was unsettling. And now? Reyes asked. Seralith looked at the massive warship. Now it is reassuring. A signal flashed across both ships. Coordinates locked. Engines charging. Ready? Reyes asked. Ready, Seralith replied. Both ships activated their drives simultaneously. Space bent, light fractured, and in a single moment they vanished. Beyond the boundaries of mapped space, in regions neither the Concordat nor humanity fully understood, silence remained. Ancient structures drifted in darkness, dormant and waiting. If they awakened, they would not find an unprepared galaxy. They would find watchmen. They would find unity. They would find a civilization no longer divided between peace and war, but balanced between both. For the first time in its history, the galaxy was ready.